Shabbat Shalom. I am trying to find words to speak to what's on my heart as we come up to this Shabbat, because I've been listening to and reading a lot about what's been happening, as I have for months and months, for 6 months, what's happening in Gaza. And I'm noticing my heartache at the level of destruction and devastation that Israel's inflicting upon the Gazan people and the Gazan land and the hospitals, as well as international aid workers. And I just had to say something about that as we enter Shabbat, because we are watching an unfolding genocide, and I've been criticized for calling it a genocide. I've been criticized for speaking my truth about what's happening and what I'm seeing happening and what I'm listening to. And I know I need to speak my truth, because I cannot look back in this moment and wonder what it was that I said or did. So I'm on the streets, so I'm engaging in actions, so I'm making calls, so I'm speaking truths that make other people feel uncomfortable. Because if it was happening to me, that's what I want other people to be doing. So we're entering this, well, we're not entering, we're in the book of Leviticus now, and Leviticus spends a lot of time and energy focusing on sacrifices, focusing on the priests and what they're wearing and the anointment and the roles that priests play in protecting communities, protecting the community by offering sacrifices to help mend breaks in the community. And in Parsha Shmini, the focus was on the sacrifices offered by the priests, who have to relinquish their money as priests and rely on the goodness of the community to make sure that their subsistence needs are met. And this is a really interesting concept, because what they're saying is that the people who are responsible for the psycho-spiritual well-being and needs of a community have to rely upon the community to make sure that they have their sustenance needs met. And really, that's quite different than what we experience right here in the United States, which is a system of bribery, where people are bribed, our government and community leaders are bribed by people with the most money and power. And that's how we end up living in a society in which, in the face of an unfolding genocide, in the face of a president saying this has to stop, at the same time, at the other side of his mouth or the other side of his pen, he's funding again and again and again the very genocide that he's expressing some moderate concern about. And so there's a wise teaching in here for me from last week's Parsha, that the people who are responsible for caretaking the community actually have to be so responsible that the way that they get their needs met, their survival needs met, their sustenance needs met, is by actually serving the community that they serve, not by serving the wealthy and the elite and the ones who are making money off this genocide, or off any system and system that is destabilizing and violent and oppressive. And then in this week's Parsha Shmini, we continue with discussions of the sacrifices, and also about what foods that we can eat and not eat. What is treif, or what are the kosher foods and what are the non-kosher foods. And also in this parsha is the story of this strange fire that Aaron's sons offer up as a sacrifice, because somehow they get consumed in the excitement or the revelry or the offerings of Aaron and his sons in the temple, and they offer up this strange fire, and then they get consumed in this fire. And it's leading me to wonder about what happens when certain energies or forces are unleashed in a society. What happens? Is it become difficult to contain and control them? What do we do when we're watching these forces being unleashed, these strange, I would say right now, really violent forces being unleashed? What do we do in the face of this? And how do we how do we consume these energies? How do we mikvah them into wholeness? And in the Torah story, the divine consumes these two sons. And what is the divine consumption, the divine protection, perhaps, that's needing to be unleashed right now to contain and control this violence that we human beings seem incapable or unwilling or both to contain. And as I said at the beginning of this, I'm not willing to be silent, because never again means never again for anybody, and not now and not in my name. And what happens when we remain silent in the face of such tragedies? And Aaron was told to be silent in the face of the consumption of his sons. What happens when we remain silent? Is that really what we want? Or do we want people making a stink? Do we want people crying out and screaming out about the angst and the grief and the injustice of what's happening in our world? So we at Beit Tikkun will be doing our morning Shabbat service on Saturday morning on April 6th. We invite you to join us. Information for how to join us is in the link below. And we will then be turning to Torah study, where we'll be reading the Parsha and having some of these conversations in our community. We'd love to have you join us. Again, the link to do so is below. So please come and join us. My name is Rabbi Cat Zavis, and I'm wishing you a wholeness and peacefulness during Shabbat, even as we look in the face of the tragedies and horrors that are happening in our world today. Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom.